Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Dancing Goats and Angry Cloud show. Tonight, we have a very special episode for you. We will be discussing the Tree of Life, or, as others know it, Yggdrasil, the Axis Mundi, the World Bowl, the World Tree. And to start, we'll tell a little story. In Norse mythology, the Tree of Life, Yggdrasil, is not only the tree that connects all of the 9 realms together, but it is also the tree from which Odin sacrificed himself by hanging. Now, the word Yggdrasil is misleading in that everybody thinks that the name of the tree is Yggdrasil, but in actuality, the name of the tree is Yggdrasil's ash. Yggdrasil's ash. Okay. It is not Yggdrasil is not the name of the tree because Ygg was another name of Odin, and Drasil is a word meaning horse. Now, in order to understand the name of Ygg's horse, in reference to a tree, you have to understand that in Old Norse pre-Christian, the elms or the trees from which a man would be hung would be referred to as a horse, or more specifically, as Ygg's horse, as Yggdrasil. Odin's gallows are Yggdrasil. The world tree is the tree from which Odin hung himself for 9 days and 9 nights in order to be able to take up the magic of the words. And with that, we will pass the discussion along to my co-host for tonight. What do you all have to say?
Skull, you want to start us off? I'm still processing my thoughts.
Oh, no, it's all good. I understand that you're still processing.
Don't let them know.
Don't let them know what?
Don't let them know.
Okay, but so Yggdrasil, as you were saying, its name really, it does mean Odin's gallows. Gallows or Odin's horse.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it connects the 9 worlds is also misleading from the stories. Because in the Poetic Edda, in the Voluspa, it only mentions 1 well. But then in the Prose Edda, Snorri Sturluson mentions that there's actually 3 wells that are connected. Mimir's, Urd's, and the Norns. So a lot of people think that's because of Christian influence on the stories, or it's just that was the version that he was told growing up, because a lot of the history and the mythology was told orally through the family and through the villages and the towns. So there are some variations. That's something that I found interesting.
So this is a theory that I just came up with. So what it could be, because you mentioned, oral traditions was how a lot of this stuff was passed down. And we know that because we have so very little written or carved in artifacts to get anything from. So it could have been a very, very sort of almost ancient tale of telephone at the time. It could have started maybe with 1 well.
But then it ended up with 3.
It could have ended up with 3. Now, whether that was because it did just get lost as the years went by, people ad lib. It's like listening to your grandfather tell an old tale he's told 1,000 times, and every time there's a different thing happening that probably wasn't there. Or they could have changed it as they saw fit. And I keep thinking about the last time we had a conversation. It was regarding it was specifically we kept talking about Tyr, and how
Well-
the stories of how like he could have been the original chief god, and things changed as society possibly changed, and you know their needs changed with it, or the gods changed with our needs. Perhaps the original well could have been, considering the one with most is considered with the greatest wisdom is sitting in Jotunheim. Perhaps it started there, where since Jotuns are basically these very primeval forces, and then as it continues on, you have one stuck up somewhere in Asgard, where I guess for Snorri would have been, heaven. And then you have
Right.
one all the way down below, closer to
Hell.
Hmm?
To hell.
to hell, where death goes. And considering Yggdrasil is the connection of everything, and in a sense, a connection to both life and death, it could have become this massive symbol for, I guess, not in a sense reincarnation, but the circle of life.
Speaking of the circle of life, I do want to interject here real quick. A lot of people have a misconception about the way that the Norse people perceived time. In pre-Christian time, well, in pre-Christian society, the concept of time was not seen as a linear progression of one event to another. Instead, time was seen as cyclical, as in certain actions or certain events were always destined to take place over and over again, which lends credence to the theory that Ragnarok was not in fact an end of the gods, but an end of that particular age, the beginning of a new cycle of rebirth for the gods. Now, the whole idea of the happy-go-lucky, peaceful time after Ragnarok does not fit with what we know about the psyche of the pre-Christian Norse societies. In fact, what we know about these people says that instead they would have thought that a peaceful, perfect, harmonious existence after Ragnarok would have been possible. It would have been a thought that they never would have even conceived of.
Right.
The thought that it would all begin again in a new cycle to happen as it happened before is well within what we know about the psyche of the pre-Christian Nordic peoples. Now, speaking of which, real quick, now this isn't going to sound like it ties in at first, but I have a picture I want to show you guys. And this picture is important because it is going to show you guys an image. Let me see if I can find it. I believe this is the right one.
Right. And while we're waiting for that to load up,
I want to ask you,
right, never mind.
what does this image look like to you?
Well, it looks like a tree with a bunch of roots and maybe something sitting up at the top there.
What was that?
It looks like an entire scene to me.
Yeah.
I can see the tree, and while
What
those
does that look like to you?
the top,
The whole thing. Just look at it. What does this one image remind you of?
it's a circulatory system.
Yeah.
Close, but no cigar.
And that's, now that I look at it, the more in this color red, that's what it feels like now. Circulatory system, a very weird one, but
You know, I
This
love how
is-
there's actually 3 people on here who are emergency responders. So that's why I can see why you're saying that.
This is a very special type of neuron that is unique to humans, and it was only discovered 2 years ago. Okay. This neuron is called a rosehip neuron. The type of neuron it is doesn't matter, but the image does, because I want you to take a look at this. Does it not look like a tree.
It
Oh,
does.
100%.
I said that first. Like it kind of looks like a tree, but then looking at it, looks like the circulatory system. But now that you mentioned in a neuron, I can see that as well.
Yeah. But
Now,
like,
many years ago, I came across a theory, and it's a theory that I want to share with you guys. But unfortunately, I just realized I cut you off, Cheese, and I don't want to be rude to you. So you go ahead and finish what you were saying, and then I'll get into the theory.
the original image that I was at first seeing was because I thought it was like, oh, someone drew. It looked like an artistic expression of what I could only assume Yggdrasil looked to this person. You've got the branches sticking out in some very interesting ways, and in fact, some of them look like they're mountain backgrounds, as if there's just one very large, still fighting tree, just kind of holding on for life in what looks like a completely barren wasteland with what could be flowers or leaves growing out of it. Just everything's in red.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking at first. That's what I saw before I looked at it further and thought, it also looks like a really strange circulatory system for a very odd animal.
Okay, so yeah, the circulatory system does tie into that because I'll actually pull up a photo of that as well. But anyways, a few years back, I stumbled upon a theory in relation to Yggdrasil. And basically it stated that Yggdrasil is a representation of the neurons within the mind. That Yggdrasil could also be a representation of the circulatory system within the human body. Because look at your arm. If you can see the veins in your arm, do they not resemble roots? Do they not resemble branches? So,
Always have.
anyways, this theory went on to state that whether the Norse people knew about it or not, that Yggdrasil does in a way represent a form of the human conscious mind or the human existence. And I've always been struck by that. Here's a decent one. Okay. All right. So here's a good picture of the circulatory system. Pull it up.
Yeah, but geez, back to what you were saying about how, like, with that game of telephone, like with how the oral traditions went, that reminded me of a story about J.R.R. Tolkien, about how he used to just tell the story of the Hobbit to one of his kids just by off the top of his head. And one day his son said to him, "Wait, but wasn't that guy's scarf red, but now it's blue?" And he said, "Damn you, boy," and he started writing things down.
Yeah, because eventually you forget. And when we can't always, when we hear things and we don't always hear things exactly, sometimes we just don't want to ask again. So we'll just fill in the gaps. And our brains do it all the time. When we remember things, our brains fill in gaps that maybe were not actually there. So
and that's
not everyone's recollection of something is 100% the same, because they're going to remember things slightly differently as they fill in the gaps as they get older, depending on how long it was. You don't tell the story of the gods and how you don't tell the story about Yggdrasil every single day. You tell it to your kids. Maybe you tell it again when something, you tell them during certain times, and then maybe you tell it to your grandkids if you're old enough to get to see them. And then by then, for all you know, they heard a completely different version. They may take those two versions together, slap them together, and then they tell a new version to a whole new generation, and then that just keeps going.
Right, and that's a phenomenon that happens even to this day as we age.
Man, we look so weird on the inside.
That is a human circulatory system. But you want to know how I found this image?
Oh, that's such a strange looking
I found this image not by searching for the human circulatory system, but for the circulatory system of Yggdrasil.
That was something else I was actually thinking on.
Like
Now
this was specifically tied to Yggdrasil.
Now this may be like taking it a little farther away from like the topic of the tree of life is got the same sort of system as what we have, maybe it's within us. But I remember reading this, it was years ago, about discussions of what basically everything in the universe is already composed of. Big Bang happens, and everything starts getting built from the dust that just explodes out of it. Planets, gases, everything, right? So by that theory, that means that you as a person, I am Groot vibes. Yes, it does. Makes me think that in the inside, I am Groot. The idea was that eventually Earth was made and, we evolved into humans, but whatever our first ancestors started out were likely also made of dust, stardust. You are one with, exactly, we are all humans connected with the universe in some way because we're all made out of stardust. And is that why, in the sense, Yggdrasil not only connects the 9 worlds, but sits in the large void of basically space that is, and I'm going to mess this up when I say it, Gunning-Gap? Gunning-Gap? Gunning-Gap. I always miss the G's in the middle, and I say Gunning-Gap, which is not the same thing.
It's Gin-nung-ga.
Ginnung-Gap. Ginnung-Gap.
Ginong.
Ginong-Back.
Nong-ga.
Gunning-Back! She says Gunning-Back.
Oh yeah, cheese is definitely cheese.
But
hold on, just to interject.
But back to the idea is that yeah.
Ginong-ga is the embodiment of not the embodiment, the source of all chaos. And since Loki is essentially the god of chaos, he is basically the embodiment of the Ginong-ga.
This is not a Loki discussion. How does it always end up becoming a Loki discussion?
Well, you see,
every time.
You see, our main host, he's a Lokian. So everything that he does has to do with Loki.
I know, but damn it, still. But what is space if not the endless void of chaos which birthed everything else? Honestly. What is space if not just complete chaos coming together and then...
That has to tell you that something's going to happen.
And by something, we mean life.
And by something, we mean the goat interrupting.
Sorry.
Stop interrupting me. Cheese has things to say.
Listen, Goat, we know Cheese, her education isn't there. We know that from the D&D game.
Shut up. I went to college.
It's not Cheese's fault she can't count.
Yeah, she can't read, she can't count. She's confused half the time.
Cheese graduated college to rip off SpongeBob. I went to college.
Krabby Patty University is not a real college.
How dare you?
You don't use math at the Fire Academy.
The Fire Academy does not count as college.
No, it does not.
It has never counted.
But I didn't want to offend you.
Nah.
Fire Academy is definitely not college. I can vouch for that.
No.
But
it's pretty much just there for 4 hours and you get 3 hours and 45 minutes of war stories.
Basically. What did you say, Goat?
EMT classes count towards college credit. And technically your Fire Academy will too.
That's true. But yeah,
it's only count towards a associate's degree in emergency medical services, but
I wasted my time at college getting a bachelor's in accounting. Guess what I'm not using in my life right now?
You know what that means?
She can do your own taxes.
If you get your paramedic and then you can actually go ahead and just apply to graduate with a AA in emergency medical services and thus have an extra AA. Plus, you could get fire department to pay for your paramedic courses.
But yeah, to try and actually get back on topic off my education, which has nothing to do with Yggdrasil at all.
I just think it's funny that you have a bachelor's degree in accounting, yet cheese can't count.
I like to make fun. I like to have fun with my characters. Sometimes they can't count. Sometimes they're horny for dragons. Sometimes they have 6 arms. Why is my creativity being micromanaged? Goat. Anyway, what is if and again I'm going to say it wrong. What if it is not the embodiment of chaos as the void of it? What is space if not just a bunch of chaos being shoved together and then poof, you luckily get one planet, as far as we know, that eventually grows sentient life and televisions, and also the ability to talk about the gods. You know?
True.
I'm so glad you're enjoying watching the Jaguars. My dog loves to watch them too. Thank you, Borden.
Or should we call him Olak?
It keeps him quiet. It keeps the dog quiet. He loves to look at the animals. Do we want to spit out more theories?
Because on my TV right now is like fish for my cat.
My cat is sitting. He's enjoying the outside. You can see him right there. He's enjoying the air. He loves it.
Yes, he's enjoying watching the birds.
The birds, the dirt. He's like he's planning things. You know he's.
Oh yeah.
Do we want to spit out more theories while we wait for Goat to come back?
Well, the thing is, I think we talked some shit about Goat since we were just teasing you. So
yeah, let's talk shit about him. What's with that hair color?
So what are you munching on over there?
Chocolate, regular chocolate.
All right, fair enough.
And if
so for all you guys watching, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, we'll answer them, even if they're not.
Yeah, we'll answer them. Like now, mind you, sometimes you'll get a serious answer, sometimes you'll get a sarcastic answer.
Or a stupid one.
Birds' bones are hollow, so
i.e. dragons. I mean, they were the closest we were ever going to get.
I agree with you, Mikey. So yeah, so who's to say that that T-Rexes weren't dragons?
They did have feathers. They did have feathers. Yeah, it may not be the exact depictions of a dragon we want, but it could possibly. Imagine a T-Rex able to fly.
Oh my god!
It's so terrifying.
Well, hey, listen. It sounds like that they would have to remake the whole Jurassic Park series,
but with feathers. And maybe
flying T-Rexes. How much more terrifying would that be?
Oh yeah, miles and miles. The branches connect every realm together.
Right.
Right into the trunk. Oh yeah. That is something I wanted to mention.
Yes, Nidhogg. He's at the bottom of Yggdrasil, gnawing at the roots.
Him and a whole bunch of snakes.
Yep.
In an attempt to kill Yggdrasil, which makes sense because Nidhogg doesn't get free, if I'm correct, until Ragnarok shows.
Exactly.
So he's trying to speed up the death of the Yggdrasil because when the idea is that when Yggdrasil falls, baby on screen, when Yggdrasil falls, Ragnarok comes, and so do the gods.
Bubby, I don't want to talk about Chorizo Guy. I don't want to talk about him.
Wait, what?
This is
Wait,
not
what?
time for medic stories.
I will ask that during D&D because now I want to know about the chorizo guy.
Okay, you know what? Since now Cheese wants to know about it. Chorizo guy. So we had an EMS call for this guy. And, well, his mother called 911 for abdominal pain. We showed up, and, Cheese, you have a mom. You know that look she gives, like, when she needs to call someone to help because her kid was an idiot.
Yeah, it's sort of like this, like...
Yeah, that was the look she was giving us as we pulled into the driveway.
It's just like, my child is a moron. Fix him, please, because I can't.
Yeah, so when we pulled up, I went up to the mom. I was like, so what's going on? Well, she said, well, my idiot son is in the bathroom. You go ask him what happened. Like, okay.
What happened?
Put my gloves on, grab my bag, and we walk into the house, walk into the bathroom. There's this guy in the fetal position, no pants, in the fetal position, crying. Do my little 30-second scene survey, which is really only like 5 seconds, and I see a chorizo wrapper in the trash can. So I just say, hey, what happened, bud? He's like, I fell on it. So I just said to him, listen, bud, I've been doing this for many years. Do you really want me to believe that you fell on it with it standing straight up and your pants?
I was gonna say, please tell me he didn't shove the chorizo up his ass.
Oh, he did. He did.
I fell on it. Come on.
Yeah, come on. You just own up to it.
That's like the dumbest excuse I think I've ever heard. It's like saying she just happened to be laying there and I tripped with my pants up and I had sex with her. That's what happened. I didn't mean to do it, sir. Please put your gun away.
Yeah. So
I fell on it. That is so stupid.
Oh yeah, so we ended up taking this guy to the hospital. And I have a good relationship with the nurses who handle the radios at the hospital. And geez, with you being a firefighter, when we are bringing someone to the hospital, we have to give a report over the radio with our estimated time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when the hospital tells us to do something, that's a medical order.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I tell the nurse, hey, this is what happened. Well, she starts giggling and says, bring eggs over the radio. Well, that's a medical order. So we stopped at the Dollar General. So we stopped at the Dollar General with the red lights going. I hop out, run in, grab some eggs, tape them to this guy's chest, and we go to the ER.
Oh,
so we're wheeling this guy in. So we're wheeling this guy in. The nurse is walking out from behind to show us which room to bring him, and she sees the eggs on his chest, and she just loses it. And I just look at her and say, hey, listen.
It was a medical
you want to
order.
Breakfast, that's on you.
It's a medical order.
It's a medical order.
Gotta happen. Yes. For those who kept actually talking about the stuff we were talking about, Spanish sausage and ER patients. Yes, Yggdrasil does have it rough, and if that's not a metaphor, I can't help but knowing what is. You have, and also it is not Jormungandr also gnawing at the roots. It's just regular ass snakes that kind of Needhog just kind of be friends with. He's just hanging around, decide I'm gonna gnaw on the tree until it dies. These snakes are gonna help me. But the tree's got that happening. It's got deer eating from its branches, just living on it, kind of taking bits away from it, as you do. Got that damn squirrel causing problems.
Cheese, what is on your TV? It looks like ants doing ant things.
I have Animal Planet in the background for my dog. What?
And Goat, you just missed it. You just missed the paramedic story.
But it's got all of this happening, and if that's not a metaphor for how life is going to be, I can't see another one. But
who the fuck is this?
It's the angry cloud. Quick, shun him. Shun the more. Shun our Mormon character.
Anyway, I haven't been Mormon in years.
If it's not a metaphor for like how life's gonna happen, I can't tell what it is. And things are gonna try to kill you. Things are gonna cause you problems and weigh you down. There's gonna be people trying to help you because you can't forget the
but
norms.
I don't even like. Oh yeah, like this is definitely an encounter of Angry Cloud because Angry Cloud has a beard.
That's true. Angry Cloud has a beard. Who the hell are you?
Yeah,
You
who
look
the
like
hell are
a
you? And what's
redneck
up to Angry Cloud?
Are you the redneck who's like just barred into his home and decided to just join the stream? You're what?
No, I think this is just Angry Cloud's like brother that just decided to take his phone.
Look, Angry Cloud's like lesser known brother. We want Angry
I
Cloud.
have one half brother. I have never met him.
Instead of Happy Cloud, instead of Angry Cloud, it's Sad Cloud because there's no beard.
Oh,
and he's about to start medic school. So he's gonna have the big sad. School. And he's gonna have the big sad.
Yeah, medic school is why it's gone.
This is Patrick. Oh yeah, this is Patrick. This is a moderately frustrated Cloud, our DM for our Dancing Goats Angry Cloud D&D game, where such names exist. Believe it or not, my name is not actually Cheese in real life. I know, it's a shocker. I don't actually go to work and have people call me Cheese.
The thing is, though, when he starts medic school, he's gonna be the big sad because he's gonna think he's sick all the time when he starts learning about all the diseases.
Oh yeah, some things you just shouldn't learn about.
No.
Next thing you know, it's like, oh, I have cancer. Are you sure? You don't just have small chest pains? It's like, no, I have cancer because I have the chest pains.
Yep.
Well, it's not for but it is.
Up and there goes the moderately depressed has Cloud's mic.
Yep, I'll be right back. I need water. I need a drink.
Oh yeah, take your time. She has cotton mouth.
Who's a pretty kitty? Who's a little kitty?
Hardly the first time.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I always have this thing around me.
I don't smoke weed, but I do have a bottle of water. That's not near me right now. Between this and game, fill it up.
So, real quick, guys, to get us back onto the topic that we were supposed to be discussing at the show, I want to mention the fact that Yggdrasil is one representation of what we call the Axis Mundi, or the axis of the earth. I'm going to share my screen real quick so you guys can see what I am seeing on this Wikipedia page. But here we go. So the Axis Mundi is a more relatively modern conception, but it takes from several older traditions about this idea of a world pillar or world axis, world tree, this pillar that connects all the worlds and parts of the world together.
Right.
Around which our whole world revolves, essentially. And so you can look in all sorts of cultures from all over the world and find different representations of the Axis Mundi. And anyways, there's some pretty good information on Wikipedia about the Axis Mundi. But Yggdrasil is definitely one of the bigger names associated with it, because right here you got Yggdrasil, the World Ash. Right. So, and it also connects.
And the Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci.
Vitruvian Man.
Yep.
Which also ties in with the whole idea that Yggdrasil is a representation of the human of the body or the mind.
Now something I want to wonder, because I totally forgot about that. Considering what if I'm correct, the Axis Mundi was, a way to connect heavens to the earth, essentially, for different mythologies. Is the tree of life the only reason we can even speak to the gods at all, or that the gods can speak to us in any way? Would we not be connected if the tree of life was not connecting us via its branches?
Okay, so I wanna try and paint a little picture for you guys. In Norse mythology, there is a squirrel named Ratatoskr. Now, Ratatoskr spends his days running up and down Yggdrasil, bringing messages from the top to the bottom across the realms, and essentially talking shit. He basically is in love with drama and likes starting shit.
So
Well,
every 14-year-old girl, girl in high school.
yeah. Well, that part about Ratatoskr isn't what's important. The important part is that Ratatoskr runs to and from along the winds of Yggdrasil, delivering these messages. Now, if we call back to the idea that Yggdrasil is a representation of a neuron within the human brain, and the various branches or roots of the of Yggdrasil are just representations of branches and roots of the neuron, then Ratatoskr is essentially just a metaphor for the electric impulses racing through those neurons, sending signals from one neuron to the next.
So what you're saying is,
I do believe that was entirely accidental and was not necessarily intended by the pre-Christian cultures, but it is definitely a connection that I see between them.
oh, yep, and go ahead to mute because of his Lokians.
Yup, his little Lokians are causing so much just trouble. We can hear them.
Oh yeah.
They always do.
There he goes. Let go deal with him.
He's
Unsupervised
going to get the
again.
belt.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
unsupervised. Unsupervised. All right, time to cause shit.
Oh, I hope not. Nothing's more traumatizing than the belt.
No, worse than the belt is go out in the backyard and pick your own switch.
Oh, dude, I had a battle.
I guess it depends on like how the parent acts when they're doing it, because I can promise you the one rare time I saw it to depict my father was like some kind of angry Bigfoot.
Cloud.
Oh no, the thing is, all she heard was the belt leaving all 12 loops in like less than a second, and then it went. Oh yeah, I didn't know. Whack.
Oh no! I mean, for me, it affected me because I got it for literally jack shit. Like, it was so fucking stupid. The reason that he tried that shit on me, but he tried to do that all the time. That was just the worst of it. But like the way he reacted was like, picture like an animal about to be eaten and cornered, and then immediately tries to bite your face off.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just because I told you to shut up. And not even to your face. I was like, shut up. And immediately you're like, you come here. The fuck is that?
So, for me, we had a paddle. And it had holes cut in it. And every time it was used, you had to sign it.
I have never had to kneel on raw rice. I have seen what that does. So no, thankfully. I just had
leather
like
belts with our names embroidered. I still have the belt actually. I'd have to look.
That's
Oh no, the thing is, the
terrible.
paddle that was used on me, my name was on it the most. And my bubby, who's in here, can attest to that.
I just had hands.
I was the bad kid.
I had hands, but that was because my mother's hand is like a weapon. A thick weapon. She's a baker, so she's like, her hands are harsh. It doesn't affect me now, because now she tries something, I'm just like, hey, it's funny. But like back then, it was terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, I felt that woman tackle me for a Ferrero share, for the last Ferrero share in the kitchen when I was like 15. So like the animalistic like attack is the same everywhere. You can't picture anything happening. Just, I have the last one. I tackle you to the ground.
Mike, when we get off the live stream, what we're gonna do is we're all just gonna play a big game of patty cake with you.
I'm not high enough for this yet. I'm not. I took indica instead. I should have taken something that turned me into the chirping squirrel. Back to the, now the goat's back. We can stay on topic. I'd love to be a frost giant. What the fuck?
So with the idea of Yggdrasil being a axis, right? I've never heard of, with few exceptions in like a desert, a tree in isolation, right? I've never heard of a tree. I've heard of plenty of forests. I've never heard of a tree. All right. So if possibly other, I guess the best way to think of it is an alternate universe. The easiest comparison with their own Yggdrasil, or whatever the hell they call it.
Possibly.
Now I'm curious.
Definitely something to look more into.
Especially I keep thinking it, and now I can't stop thinking of the idea that without Yggdrasil, you wouldn't be talking to the gods at all.
Yeah.
Because if it's the connection between everything. Excuse me. Yes.
On her thought, actually, that was bad as she went out well. With the fact that during Ragnarok, Yggdrasil and humanity's extinction will happen at the same time. It's not a 1-2, but it's pretty close. That's a nice little piece of kind of evidence of it.
Well, humanity survives Ragnarok because a man and a woman shelter and hide within Yggdrasil.
I personally think that's a Christian influence thing because it sounds pretty Adam and Evey to me.
It does. I also agree that seems like it's more of a Christian influence thing, just like the whole idea of a happy, peaceful, harmonious existence after Ragnarok is absolutely a Christian influence.
I may or may not lose Wi-Fi on my computer. If so, I'll try to get on my phone, just because the electrician's here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for the heads up, Pete.
Yep,
Well, we only have another 8 minutes left, so
that's true. At worst, I'll be late for D&D.
yeah.
So what were we talking about? I missed it.
I brought the idea of, for backing up your thought of, with humanity almost going extinct, or if you don't like the idea of what I personally think is Christian influence of the two survivors.
That was tricked, you couldn't tell. And I just, when I went to reset it.
Breakers and bitches always be tripping. Humanity going extinct, and Ragnarok with Yggdrasil burning happening almost at the same time. Good connection idea.
It is. Although, does it? Sometimes I have to pull this back multiple times, but does it specifically say that in Ragnarok we ourselves are handled just fine? I always forget.
Pretty sure it says pretty much humanity dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say, for all we know, just because it means a rebirth or a continuation of life does not mean that we ourselves will be part of it, or even in the same way we are right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We may no longer be the dominant species after our own Ragnarok. It could be anything else, or it could be humanity in an entirely different form, evolving to whatever new weird stage we get into.
Right. Who's to say that we are
overlords?
What?
Right, and who's to say that after Ragnarok we weren't we didn't become a mix of all the worlds?
And who's also to say that like we don't ourselves end up getting attached to it anyway? I mean, true, we already know that those who die, they get to go to Valhalla, they get to fight in the war. But who's to say we're not going to get thrown into it anyway? We have the people, we have the gods that a lot of us, obviously, we worship the gods. I don't know how many people honestly actually like worship the giants, but I do know that I've seen some people who do, you know. Will we get dragged in there?
Okay, good. You worship the giants because you're a Lokian.
I'm just saying.
No,
Well,
that's
not
not
specifically just Loki, but
I know.
That is why. That's
oh,
why.
what?
I'm just teasing
Not
goat.
just Lokians.
I'm just teasing goat up there.
My
Up there.
worshiping
Goat. That
veneration-
is exactly why.
my veneration and honoring of the giants is because I believe in balance. I believe in keeping the balance between the sides. That's why I'm a Lokian.
Isn't your god the god of chaos?
I mean,
Chaos.
yes, but chaos isn't always a complete bad thing.
Right, chaos.
I have
It's
come to
definitely not
learn very
balance.
quickly. It
It's
isn't
the
it
opposite of
though.
balance.
Wait,
No,
but
no,
isn't it
no,
though? Isn't it though?
Disorder is the opposite of balance.
Chaos. Is the
Chaos.
balancing force.
Chaos is natural.
Yeah.
Chaos
I've already
is the
quickly
natural
learned
part
this.
of the universe. It is a tool through which the universe can keep the balance of everything in check. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at Loki throughout the mythos, his actions are about 50-50 good and bad as far as the outcomes for the gods are concerned. So
Yeah.
if his actions are roughly 50-50, then that shows that he is not favoring one side or the other, but he is working to create a harmony between the two.
Poor cast iron.
I know.
Rip-
Poor cast
rip-
iron.
Rip that cast iron.
Right.
Don't yum, Pell. That's so
Oh, we're
awful.
talking about Loki. No.
I mean, what's happening to that cast iron has to be something that Loki would do.
Oh
No.
yeah, absolutely.
No. Loki wouldn't do that.
Loki
Yeah, Loki would. do
Loki
that.
very much believes that cast iron skillets should be carefully taken care of and not just scrubbed down with some steel wool like crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone
just
watching,
great
please do a
right
ritual
there.
for.
That's,
Oh yeah, for a
that's disharmony, disorder.
But
So,
yeah,
I
chaos
have a
itself
request
is
of our
not
audience.
necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people thrive on chaos. Humans thrive on so much chaos all the time. It's how we grow. So it's like it's not always a bad thing. You can't say I don't think that Lokians, yes, they'd follow Loki possibly towards the end, but doesn't always mean that their idea of where they should be on chaos is like one side,
Okay,
you know?
so I have to make a distinction here, because while we all like to joke and say that I am a Lokian, and it is true, my beliefs are a bit more complicated than that, because my beliefs lie somewhere between that of Rokatru and Thursatru. Rokatru includes veneration of the Jotuns and some of the darker forces in the mythos and the cosmos.
Gus, what are you doing? Stop chewing on that head.
And Thursatru is basically a veneration or honoring of primal forces within the universe. These primal forces, one of them is chaos. The oldest of these primal forces is probably chaos, because it's from chaos that everything sprang, and it is to chaos that everything shall return. So, to say that Lokians worship chaos is technically true, But not all Lokians are truly actually worshiping the primal force of chaos. They are just honoring and worshiping or venerating the manifestation and personification of chaos that is inherent in the being that is Loki. Now, you can think of it as essentially chaos is a uncaring, unbiased force behind everything, and Loki's the little errand boy that makes sure everything happens.
I understand that. I'm not trying to, you know, simplify the what Lokians actually stand for.
Well, it's not so much about you simplifying it or me trying to complicate it. It's that the whole idea of a Lokian belief is a very complicated issue within the community, as the whole identity of who Loki is contested even amongst Lokians. Not all Lokians agree on who Loki is and what he represents. Now, my whole idea that he is not evil, but rather a balancing force within the pantheon, is surprisingly a relatively common belief amongst Lokians and even non-Lokians alike. The idea that he is more of this neutral force that is neither good nor bad can create harmony or disharmony is a very prevalent idea. And while we don't know that it may have been how he was seen in the past, we also don't know that is not how he was seen. Because we have very few surviving records, and I think there's roughly a dozen. I know that the Wisdom of Odin recently did his whole God Week on Loki, and he was saying something like 10 different stories or something. But
Yeah, about 10 different stories he's in.
a lot of people forget that you you don't have to just look at what comes from Scandinavia. There's the sagas of the Vinlanders, the Greenlanders, the Icelanders. There's the Faroese sagas. There's the Frisian sagas. There are the Saxon sagas, the Angles, their sagas. There's sagas from the Slavic peoples, because while their heathenry is different from the Nordic heathenry, it is still relatively much the same religion, just with different window dressings, essentially. It's just cosmetic differences for the most part. So we can learn a lot if we were to just expand the reach of where we look for these sagas and these resources. And if you do that, there's a lot more material to go off of. And it really does come to show that Loki's he's not good, he's not bad. He really is just a balancing force amongst the pantheon.
Right, which I agree with you, Go. Loki really is the balancing force. Because when things are going too bad, he balances out to make things go good. But when things are going too good, he balances out to make things go wrong.
Correct.
Honestly, at this point, I'm surprised we have not just done one podcast episode where we just talk about Loki. Like, actually, the whole idea is to talk about Loki. Because he's already shown up. He clearly wants to have that happen.
Go to the idea for next week.
And just, he's already hijacked multiple podcast episodes by somehow injecting himself in, even without Goat saying a thing. One of us will bring up Loki, and then we will talk about Loki for like 10 minutes straight.
There's a reason that he is the unofficial patron of the dancing goats in every cloud.
And also, I need to say this to Borden. You are absolutely right. Everyone wants to be Loki until it's time to carry Sleipnir.
Well, yeah. Do you know how hard it is to birth a horse? You know how hard it is for horses to birth horses?
Oh, extremely hard.
You don't
How long
even
is
know
the
how to
birthing
birth a
practice
human, let alone a horse.
I don't even want to imagine how it came out.
Picture it. Like, picture
Yeah, like
the
was
expansion.
like yeah. And plus, Sleipnir has 8 freaking legs. Like, was Loki in his normal form? Was he still in his
I-
horse form? Like,
No, I'm sure he had to have still been a mare when he was giving birth to that. I'm trying to picture how he would have given birth to Sleipnir in any other form other than a horse and made it work.
He could transform
Yeah.
at will. He could pick his
Yeah.
form.
Exactly. But like, still,
In
you know how hard it is to give birth when you're
10
wearing
times
pants?
bigger.
Imagine how hard it is to give birth when you have pants on.
yes, yes, Johans. There's a story of Loki turning
Oh,
into a mare in heat and breeding with another horse named Spadalfari, and
yeah.
his child is named Sleipnir, who is an 8-legged horse, who my brother lovingly refers to Sleipnir as Spider Horse.
Yes. It's in the story in which Loki is able to mostly finish the wall that surrounds Asgard. And he does it and secures it by turning into a mare, taking the maker's horse,
Johans gets
fucking
it.
it, and birthing a horse.
Giant by the name of Builder.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Johans gets it. It's gonna take.
we are approaching the 1 hour mark, so we are going to go ahead and wrap up the show for this week. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know that our next book giveaway will go live as of tonight, so you guys can go ahead and submit your entries. And the book we will be giving away is Rooms for Beginners by Lisa Chamberlain. All right. I will have a review coming out on this book
Very good book.
this week.
Very good book.
All you have to do in order to enter the giveaway is to take a screenshot if you are subscribed to the channel and post it into the giveaways channel on our
Get away from the
Discord,
fire.
which you'll find a link to the Discord in the description down below. You'll also find a link to the Patreon where you can help to support us as we continue to make Heathen content. All Patreon donations come straight to going and paying for more of these book giveaways. And everything goes to the community. So, with that being said, next week we will be moving the live stream to another day. I do not know what day we are going to move it to just yet. I'm personally thinking it will probably just end up being Wednesday and being held at a later time in order to make it more convenient for the rest of our regular co-hosts in order to attend. With that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here for tonight.
Hello, little cat, little killer.
There's the Leviathan.
Hello, Leviathan kitty.
Well, wait for the
Oh, my kitty's gone.
Yeah, my Leviathan wanted to say hi to everyone.
Mine decided he didn't even want to be on camera, even for like a little bit, and was like gone. Probably hiding under the bed. Also, yes, Borden, it always does end up as on horse sex here.
So,
Go back to sleep.
final words of wisdom, everybody. Remember, children, please be quiet. I'll leave you with these final words of wisdom, everybody. Remember, there is no one true way. And until I see you guys again, skull.
Golf.
Let's go.
Hello. Mwah.